over my, over my time as a Liverpool fan, I can only remember a handful of times where we've let a really top player run his contract down and lose him on a free transfer. Looking at Michael Owen, Steve McManaman, going back a few years, but it's not happened for a while. And I'm a little bit baffled by the GINI Wijnaldum situation. I'm not a little bit baffled. I'm totally baffled by it. And I wonder what your thoughts are, lads, because it feels to me like just an extraordinary thing to be doing. We're about to lose a player who is, I can only think of the Barcelona game last year, and even that game he came on and won the game for us. But I can only think of that game where Klopp has not picked him in a big game. He is one of his absolute go-to trusted lieutenants, isn't he? And for us to be in a situation where we're going to be losing him on a free transfer, I just think is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think most people point to the Emre Can situation of a few years back because it is a similar situation. You heard the clubs that were interested, and at that point in time, we weren't too far away from the top, but nobody foresaw these last 3 years since Can has gone. For GINI, it's a bit different in terms of the fact that he's won the Champions League with Liverpool, he's won the Premier League with Liverpool. He's getting to that period of his career where he's probably thinking, what else do I want to win? I think, as he said, there's so many Dutch heroes that have been through that Barcelona side that if that's the club that are interested, if that's been a lifelong dream with him, a dream for him, sorry, I don't think too many Liverpool fans would think of him in a bad mind for wanting to go to Barcelona. But it's just the whole thing, doesn't it, that actually it seems to us like GINI is desperate to stay at Liverpool, and that he's waited and waited and waited for the perfect contract from Liverpool, but it's just not come. And it is interesting. I've seen lots of things where it might be because Liverpool are planning to make some massive moves in the transfer window, which wouldn't surprise me because of this new Nike deal, and that was one of the things we were promised at the time, and that somebody like GINI has, not necessarily purposefully from the club, but they saw him as one of the players' contracts that they could cut, or they couldn't afford to give him a bumper contract because of this. You've seen links as well to younger players like Renato Sanchez to take over that role, and it's whether Klopp's just thinking of the future now, and he's thinking of putting a younger and fresher face in that midfield. So it could be numerous things, but I can say on behalf of most Liverpool fans, and I certainly think that in GINI Wijnaldum we are losing somebody who is incredible and a massive part of this Liverpool squad. We've seen his friendship with players like Virgil van Dijk. We know the story that actually he was one of the players that Liverpool players voted for in terms of who would be the understudy to James Milner as our vice captain, if you like. I know Virgil van Dijk got it, but GINI's definitely up there too. So there's no doubt we're losing a top player here.
So Craig, if as we're reading, he wanted kind of parity with the top earners, is he in that kind of bracket for you?
It's so difficult, this one, because I've read a lot of stuff from a lot of people. Everybody's put their tuppence worth into this conversation. Should he be at the very, very top bracket? In my opinion, no, not in the Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Virgil van Dijk bracket of 150 to 180, that kind of thing. But should he be maybe on parity with Jordan Henderson, somebody like that? Yeah, absolutely. But what gets me about this, and as Jack said as well, is I want to put out first and foremost that when anybody signs a contract at a football club, you want them to honour their contract. So I think any Liverpool fans listening, be aware of the fact that GINI Wijnaldum and Emre Can, I'll include that in this conversation as well, both were thoroughly professional right to the last minute of that deal, and I thought were very respectful towards the club as well. GINI, the thing that gets me the most around the whole GINI to Barcelona situation is, and I'm going to be talking to Graham Hunter about this probably tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that coming out as well. I'm baffled as to the appeal at this moment in time. Like Jack made a very valid point. There's been a lot of great Dutch players go through those Barcelona doors and represent that magnificent club. But right now, you're looking at a Barcelona that's just about to lose the greatest player of my generation, that has a presidential election coming up this month, that, are looking at bringing in mainly free transfers in the window to a manager that I'm not convinced will actually even be there next season. So
you have to look at it, though, in terms of the fact that he's worked under Ronald Koeman before and got, some incredible form out of him for the Dutch side. You think he played in a more advanced goal. He always seems to be on the score sheet when he goes and plays for the Netherlands. He knows that, you know, Messi might be leaving. It's an opportunity for him to go to Barcelona and turn into one of their main stars. And, you know, he's conquered England. He's won the Premier League. He's won the Champions League. Everybody knows here what sort of player he is. And as you say, he's ran out his contract in the way that, you know, he's not done anything wrong while he's been here. He's done what any footballer is allowed and is there to do. It's a contract. If you run it, that's your decision. So if he wants to go to Spain and do the same there and be the one that you know, leads them to a La Liga title or leads them to a Champions League final or a Champions League trophy, you know, then I think we should all respect him for that. And no matter whether it's Barcelona, the side from when I was a kid, and you know, the sides that we've seen under Pep Guardiola and you know, teams like that, or whether it's the Barcelona of today where GINI could go there and be a real star.
But if it's as simple as, you know, he wants to play at Barcelona, and I'd understand that, and he's got the manager there and, you know, the lure of Barcelona. If it was as simple as that, then why are we still, you know, we've only just, you know, it's been reported, hasn't it, the last couple of weeks? We're only just hearing that he's turning down Liverpool contracts and stuff. You know, if that were the case, why was that not the case a year ago? Why are we still, if he had his heart set on Barcelona, you know, he'd have had his heart set on Barcelona and there wouldn't be an offer Liverpool could make. You know, there's got to be something. There's obviously something Liverpool could have done to keep him, isn't there? Because you know, we've got to this point.
Yeah, I honestly think it's a mixture. I honestly think it's Liverpool trying to save money and doing things in order to save money, maybe to bring in more players, or because of COVID, the offer was perhaps there, but because of COVID, they've now had to retract that and think and thought about it differently and thought that they can't afford the wages that GINI is asking for a GINI sort of player. You know, I think GINI's best games in Liverpool shirt are the big games when, you know, he seems to be that player that we always look towards. And that's why I think it's going to be a huge loss for us. But you never know. It might be that Klopp's planning to change the style. Maybe we're going for something different. And he doesn't feel as though that going forwards, GINI is going to be a player that is so important for us. And therefore, you know, it may be a mixture of the two, that and the fact that, you know, Barcelona, now under Ronald Koeman, of course, remember this time last year, they had a complete different manager, and now things are looking different. He's worked under that gaffer before. So I do think it's a mixture. But, you know, I am broken that he's going. But fair play, I absolutely respect his decision and the club's decision, and I trust Michael Edwards and Jurgen Klopp to replace him properly and bring someone in who can maybe even eclipse what GINI's done here.
You know, he's 30 years old, I think, isn't he? And I was looking at some of the ages of some of the other lads yesterday. Firmino, 29, Salah and Mane, 28. You know, Van Dijk's 28, 29, Henderson, 30 as well. You know, there's a few players, aren't there, that they're not. I'm not saying for a second we're looking to replace any of these players, but there's a few that they'll, you know, the scouting team will be starting to think, you know, who's going to step into these players' shoes when, you know, over the next 2 or 3 years. And I wonder who they've got in mind for, you know, Wijnaldum, given that he is such, you know, vital cog. You know, he's one of the first names in the team sheet every single week, particularly in those big games. I wonder who they've got in mind to replace him, Craig.
If you're going by media reports, Jack touched on there was Renato Sanchez was one of the links. Rodrigo de Paul from Udinese is another one that's been brought up recently as a potential midfielder coming in. But I kind of want to answer your question with a question, if that's all right, Steve. I wonder, and I think Jack maybe alluded to this earlier, are we starting to see Jurgen Klopp evolving his second team right now? Are we see the second generation of Jurgen Klopp coming through? And the lads on the Monday Night Football did a great segment on this, and Carragher spoke about the longevity of a group staying together, and he showed the great Barcelona sides, the great Manchester City side, Liverpool side, United sides, and, you know, 3 years seem to be about the ceiling on that, Steve, with regards to players staying together in the group.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think there's something in that. I mean, I'm sure that's, you know, they're always thinking ahead like that, because you've seen in, you know, United did it for years so well, didn't they? Where they were able to just, you know, tweak a player here and there, and all of a sudden you had, you know, a whole new team, and you kind of weren't quite sure where that came from. You look at in other sports where you know, the Australian cricket team. I don't know if you guys are into cricket, but Australia, they had this, you know, unbelievable generation of Warne and McGrath, and they all retired all in one go, and they had to bring in 5 or 6, you know, younger lads all in one go, and it just completely failed. And I think, you know, there's got to be an evolution of a team all the time, hasn't there? You know, Jota's an example of that. And I think there's something in that. And I'd be surprised if they didn't start to, the other week when Salah started talking, you know, the way he was, and people started speculating, that sort of thing doesn't really bother me. I don't know about you, but it doesn't really bother me, because that's how football works. And at the age of 28, 29, if somebody offered, you know, massive money for him, that's, you know, wouldn't surprise me if we took it, because that's the way it works. That's the way, particularly the owners, that's the way they like to work, isn't it?